Hi, welcome to Fully Involved. I'm your humble host, Jim Farrell, and with me as always is
Victor Salinas.
Today is our first inaugural official video of Fully Involved, and it's September 11th, 2021. It's been 20 years since the attacks on our country, and we're going to share a little bit about our experiences that day. On September 11th, 2001, I was getting ready to go on shift. I pulled into the fire station, and one of the outgoing lieutenants had mentioned that a plane had hit one of the World Trade Center buildings, And when I went inside, the TV was on, of course, and we were doing shift change. And, the thing was when that second plane hit the building, we all knew that we were under attack. And, the way the fire services, we knew it changed dramatically. One of the things that changed immediately, and some of you may or may not relate to this, but we were never allowed to watch TV from 8 to 5. Well, ever since that has happened, we've pretty much been able to have cable news on the television all day long. So those little things that changed in the fire service happened immediately. I remember that day I called my folks who lived in Houston. I still had a little brother and sister that were attending high school. And I called my dad and I said, hey, just get them home and stay away from the chemical plants and all that stuff because we didn't know what was coming. And the one thing I've been reflecting on a lot, Victor, is this whole time, these whole 20 years, although we've known soldiers have been over there, it doesn't always hit us because, we got our own things going on. And that's been a huge thing that we haven't forgotten 9/11, but from time to time we forget about our soldiers that have been over there fighting for us.
Yes, I think after 9/11, like the 2-3 years following, it was always in the front of our mind. It was always something that we were constantly thought about. But as time went on, other things kind of took the foreground of that, and it's important to never forget it. You always need to give that respect, to give that remembrance.
So where were you that day? What were you doing?
I'm on the younger side, so I was in 5th grade. I was 10 years old when it happened. As soon as it happened, I remember my teacher left the classroom. He took off from campus because his family was in Mexico, so he wanted to get across before they closed the borders, and he was worried about that. So we were watching TV there for an hour before anyone came to check on us. So we were kids, we were kind of freaking out about it. And then everyone's parents came and picked them up. Everyone was gone by noon. Yeah, it was an experience. I experienced it there in school, and then I went and I was asking questions to my parents, what's going on? Is this real? Is this a movie? I didn't understand what was going on at the time.
So some of the things that I've done over the 20, the first year remembrance, at City Hall, big event, a lot of responders, a lot of people. We honored those that passed away on 9/11. The 10-year anniversary, a bunch of the guys, there's a tree right out front of our fire station that we planted, and it's blossoming like crazy. We never thought that tree was going to grow that big. We never went and put a plaque that was, but I think maybe this Saturday or today we'll go and do that, and put a plaque that this tree was planted in memorial on the 10-year anniversary of 9/11. I've participated in different stair climbs, always trying to memorialize, but it's easy to forget that we got soldiers over there, or we had soldiers over there, and so it's a full spectrum. Our special guest that we're going to have today is going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm just glad our first video our first episode could be about not forgetting.
Something as important as this.
Right.
Like you said, it's easy to forget sometimes, but it's important not to forget.
Right.
And in the past 20 years, how, aside from the tree, is there anything else you do to remember?
And so these days, what I do on a personal level is I try my best to put other people's welfare ahead of mine and try not to be so selfish, And I strive to do that every day, and that's just on a personal level, but it's taken me 45 years to learn how to be like that, So when it comes to the fire service, I'm getting towards the end of my career. The book will be closing soon, but what a ride it's been. But man, if that event could have never happened, that would have been just fine by me. What are some of the things you've done to remember 9/11?
On a personal level, my great-grandfather was a vet, World War II, so our family grew up respecting the vets, having them as a very important part of our life. And my wife, she has 3 brothers, all served. She was going to serve herself, but she decided not to. And her nephew is recently enlisted in the Navy, so he just got shipped out. So veterans are a huge part of my family. I respect them. I was never I never served myself. I have a lot of friends who are veterans, so I'm glad that this is our first episode. It's another way for me to say thank you to them.
Sure.
For doing this.
Well, I got to tell you, you're in for a real treat because our first guest is not only a first responder, but he's a veteran, and he's going to have some really special stuff to share with us. So, glad you could be here with me today on this inaugural video, and I think we're going to have a lot of great stuff to share with our community. Welcome back to our inaugural video here at Fully Involved. Today with us is a special guest. He's roughly a 34-year veteran in the fire service. He's also the go-to guy that if the zombie apocalypse ever happens, I know where to meet him, and I know where we're going, and I know I'll be safe. This is Lieutenant Marco Martinez. He's a lieutenant here in the Rio Grande Valley. Like I said, he's a 34-year veteran. Great guy to know. I've seen him pull a victim from a hotel that was on fire while calling a second alarm. I've seen him save his crew on the expressway from a major accident, almost getting hit by a semi, and he's definitely somebody you can count on in the fire service. Lieutenant Martinez, thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Cap.
Today our focus is talking about September 11, 2001. And the first question is, we don't want to forget that day, and from time to time, maybe it kind of gets put in the back of our head, but tell us where you were that day, September 11, 2001.
Everybody has an idea where they've been on that day, what they were doing, where they were getting up in the morning, brushing their teeth. I specifically know that day because I was actually in New York. Not the city, but I was in New York. We were there getting ready to deploy. I was in the Guard at that time, and we were getting up that morning. We were packing up our gear, listening to the radio, to the radio stations and stuff. We were at, I believe it was Fort Drum. We were there to link up with the Triple Deuce, 2nd Battalion, 22nd Infantry Regiment from Fort Drum, 10th Mountain Division. We were attached to them, and we were going to Bosnia to go help over there doing a peacekeeping mission with the stuff that's going on. So we're packing up our duffel bags when we hear on the radio, that a plane crashed into one of the towers. I'm in a room full of NCOs, and right away we're all looking at each other like, is this a joke? Like, first thing that came into mind was, is this War of the Worlds type of thing? Orson Welles coming up with something over the radio back then, talking about the invasion by aliens, and we're all looking at each other. Nah, this can't be right. So we're running around the barracks trying to find a TV or something that we can look at. Because back then, yes, we had cell phones, but we didn't have as much access as we do now with social media, YouTube, Google, all those other, sites.
Sure.
And sure enough, we're listening on the radio, and, we're trying to keep our soldiers, in line, because a lot of them wanted to go help. A lot of them were police officers, border patrol agents, troopers, in the fire service, in some form of public service type, even former Marines and active duty, former soldiers. So we knew something was wrong. We were there. We wanted to go and help. And we were locked down for about 2 weeks until we could get a flight because, of course, of what had happened. They grounded all travel, even military, even military. So we were there for another 2 weeks, and we had to post guards around the barracks because people wanted to leave. People were that, I don't want to say hard, but that enthusiastic, but they felt that they needed to be there to help. Even myself, I was a staff sergeant back then, I wanted to go because my fellow brothers and sisters, in the fire service, were, their lives were taken because of a cowardly act.
Now, forgive me, Lieutenant, but can you tell our audience what an NCO is?
An NCO is a non-commissioned officer. It's a sergeant, basically. You think of sergeant, but there are certain levels of a sergeant. You have a sergeant, staff sergeant first class, first sergeant, sergeant major.
Very good. I completely forgot that you were there when that happened. I just have a couple questions. So we know where you were. We know what you were doing. Do you remember anything changing? Any policy changing? How long were you deployed before you came back to the fire service?
For Bosnia, I was deployed 9 months, and even there in Bosnia, we would get the rumors. We would get intel through our, informants and stuff like that, of what was going on. There were a lot of mujahideen that were there in Bosnia, because if y'all know, the Bosnia was actually Yugoslavia. It broke up into Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia, different, because even though they were all Slavic, they were all the same people. They were, some were Islamic, some were Christian Orthodox, others were Catholic. Their religion, they were more of a religious type of infighting.
I got you.
And we were there. We were besides the Green Berets, Special Forces that were already in Afghanistan, we were one of the groups that conducted a raid on a terrorist cell that were part of Al-Qaeda, were planning to take Cessnas, loaded up with explosives, and fly them into our camps there in Bosnia. And we actually prevented that. It wasn't brought in or put out on the web or in the news, but because there were other things that going on that superseded that. But that was one of the first actual attacks that we did towards Al Qaeda and the terrorist cells.
So, being that I was back here, doing my service in the fire department, and forgetting that you were deployed for those 9 months, I saw the fire service change immediately here. Did you notice any policies and procedures change in the military? Just for curiosity.
The change, there were some changes. Some that were, overall. Some hot spots that says, travel policies that they put out. Don't go here because of this. Don't go there because of that. But we as a military, we still maintained our SOPs, our SOGs, our rules and regs, the way we do things. And one of the biggest things that we do, of course, is defend our Constitution. And that's what we live by. Even things that are going on now, we still, as a military, as veterans, as people have served, still feel that our Constitution is who we are. That's what America is. It's not our skin color. It's not, whether I was born Hispanic, from Hispanic parents, or African American, or whatever. We're all American, and that's what we need to see. So the policies that I saw change was, of course, is that we had to improve our training and our vigilance on how things were being done.
So if I recall, you made the cover of a military magazine. Is that correct? When you were in Bosnia? Okay.
Yeah, when I was in Bosnia, yes. I made that. I made that on AFN News Network back when I was stationed in Germany. I was Hero Hohenfels. During training, myself and a team of my rifle team, we took out 4 enemy vehicles and a platoon. So, yeah. Bosnia, yes.
So is there any difficulty transferring from soldier mode to coming back to the States and being a first responder, and vice versa?
Yes. It's easy to go from a civilian, well, for me, to go from, okay, I'm here in the fire service, okay, now I got to put on my ACUs, BDUs, camouflage, pick up my rucksack and my weapon and go out to be a soldier. Okay, that is not hard. That is, because it's a lifestyle. A lot of people back then, when I was growing up, be all you can be, career. Right. Well, it's not a career. It's a career and you're doing it for your, like a job, but it's a lifestyle. You have to adapt to it, and if you can adapt to it, yes, you're gonna make your 20 years. If you can't adapt to it, you're gonna do your 4 years, your 8 years, 10 years, whatever, and you're gonna get out. I did 5 years active. I was hoping to do my full 20 years active duty, but just something in my home front was keeping me from doing that. I saw that what was going on back here was going to affect me over here. So I rather got out, but I still continued my service. I got out in April of 95, and that same April of 95, I was reporting to my first National Guard unit, which was in Kingsville. Back then, it was an infantry company. And ever since then, till 2012, when I retired, I kept doing what I needed to do as a military. Then coming back as a civilian, that is the hard part. Because you have your mindset locked into, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to be ready. I might have to take somebody's life. I might have to shoot this car up because it's approaching and they're not stopping. I might have to, go into a building. We don't know who they are, what's in there. But whereas we're here, we gotta desensitize ourselves and bring ourselves back into a type of sensitive civilian mode. And it's hard. It's hard because a lot of us still, like me, I'm still hypersensitive. I still have very aggressive. Through the VA, they help me with medication and stuff, but I'm still, I still driving. I look around, I see a trash in the road. I'm thinking, okay, what is that? Why is that trash bag there? How come nobody's picked it up? Is it an IED? I'm still seeing those type of things. I'm in the fire truck. My driver's driving. We couldn't be going to go fuel up or something, and I'm still checking out rooftops, windows.
Sure.
People walking by.
It's just something they can't take out of the soldier.
They just can't.
Right.
Can't.
One last question that I have is, I meet a lot of veterans that don't want to take advantage of their benefits from the VA, either because they felt like, well, I never served in combat, or it's a real pain. What is your recommendation to our vets? I'm a big fan of our veterans. I wish I would have been able to serve. If I could go back, I would have liked to have served. But when it comes to that, what do you recommend for a veteran that is considering going to get some benefits but doesn't feel like he deserves them? And
here's the thing. As a veteran, and you'll see veterans, trying to be a civilian. Well, it's kind of hard to come down that one step because you've stepped up to do something that everybody else, our presidents have said, 1% of our nation step up to do. But yet, we don't get that glory. We don't feel like the people from Vietnam, they came back, what were they told? And it's those same people that were saying those bad things to those Vietnam veterans that are now patting our backs and saying, good job, good job, good job. Why? Because now they have a family and they have family members that are in the service. See? Well, what I tell those veterans, do it. You're helping yourself. You're helping your family. You've earned it. Whether you've been in combat or not, it doesn't matter.
Just the fact that they were willing to do something, in my opinion, they should take advantage of all benefits.
Yeah. And another thing is, if as a veteran, don't step back. Yes, you're a civilian now, but you know what? You have that military bearing. You have that leadership potential that you've learned. You have that situational awareness that you have learned and have been able to still be that soldier, but maintain that discipline and do right as a civilian who used to be in service. Don't push yourself back and try to fit in with the crowd. That in true life will still gonna look at you wrong. They're still gonna say, no, you're so you're not one of us. Because in actuality, they have to step up to try to be one of you.
Sure. So to wrap up our 9/11 special, give me some of the things over the last 20 years that you've done to never forget. Whether you were on duty or not, can you think of some times and some things that you did for ceremonies and things like that to let our audience know how we as first responders, we as firefighters don't forget? Can you share with us some of that?
Some of the things, of course, is I have my own U.S. flag in my house. HOA or no HOA, HOA, whatever, I don't care. I raise it and lower it to honor my fallen brothers and sisters on those holidays or on any time. Just recently, 13 soldiers passed away.
Right.
I still have my flag at half mast, at half staff. My wife's like, well, put it up. Why? I'm still honoring my brothers and sisters. I'm still honoring those soldiers, those Marines that were there. You know, even though I myself spent 18 months there in Afghanistan, from my activation in January 2005 till when I got back in 2006. Correction, 2004. No, December 2004 till I got back in 2006. And I still honor them. I still salute the flag. I still am very patriotic when it comes to dealing with veterans. I see veterans, at the stores. I thank them for their service.
Sure.
Even though they don't know me, I tell them, hey, how you doing? I'm also a veteran, but I want to thank you for your service because they were there before me. What they did, what they built up, their traditions, their values, they passed them on to me. All right, and when I was in the service, I passed on those values, those beliefs into the soldiers that I led. Because when I retired as a first sergeant, infantry company first sergeant, and I came in as a private, and I went up the ranks.
So on behalf of Fully Involved, we're glad you are our first guest on our show, and we appreciate your commitment and your courage, not only to the fire service, but to obviously your passion is with the military, and the fact that you're willing to do both of those jobs. I've had veterans tell me, man, I could never go in a burning building. Well, hey, man, I couldn't go through the woods carrying a gun. Right. And, so the willingness, it takes a very special person. And thanks for being our first guest on Fully Involved.
Thank you, Captain, for having me. I appreciate it.
I'll see you out in the field,
Thank
man.
you, sir. Yeah, we'll do, sir.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.